If you think about it, it seems inevitable to me that everyone is going to end up with their own personal AI. And what I mean by that is this is going to be the thing that trains you from a child. This is going to be the reference that you're going to use for your personal and your professional life. But more importantly, this is going to be the way that you defend yourself against a world that is increasingly complicated and being pushed down your throat from advertisers and from other AIs and from things that are frankly pretty intelligent. This could be your caretaker when you're old. This could be the thing that really allows you to have the kind of life that you want, that's controlled by what you're interested in and not by what other people are interested in. And I think it's super important that when we look at our own AI, this is something that over time will be part of our operating system, the same way that your memories and your mind are now, that you want to be the one that's in control of that. So just a question for you to think about is, if you think about the most intimate relationship you will have in your life, that will be your defender, your companion, your reference point, who do you want to be in control? Who do you want that thing to serve? So when I think about it, I think that the future of AI should be in your control individually. I'm an advocate that we want to be the person who makes the decisions on what the AI's motivation is, on which direction it takes us. So if you look a little bit at the history of how the internet grew up, you started in the 90s, we went through what's called kind of Internet 1 and Internet 2. And Internet 1 and 2 was the growth of browsers and applications and then social media. And largely because the technology at the time was nascent and the money that was flowing into it was primarily private, we ended up with a situation where everything's centralized. And you ended up with a few characters that control the internet, and everybody knows who these are. They're the usual suspects. And they really have only one motivation in life, and that is to maximize profit. And if maximizing profit has to take place at your expense, this is just the cost of doing business. So the world we live in today is really exploitation. It's filter bubbles, it's algorithms making decisions on what you see and what you don't see. And it is an incredibly manipulative industry. I mean, this industry has spent untold billions of dollars hiring the finest neuroscientists in the world to understand your dopamine system and how to affect it in such a way that keeps you really an avid addict for consuming more and more of their products. And their ways of monetization are pretty straightforward. It's either selling that interest to advertisers, or it's in harvesting your data in increasingly sophisticated manners to be able to predict behavior and to be able to control behavior. And AI has only really upped the game here, where now there is a tool at a centralized point that is able to go through those masses and masses of data and really create algorithms that you're psychologically almost helpless against. So my feeling is that your AI is going to be kind of like, and please don't take the metaphor too far, your early antivirus software. Although everybody hated it because it was inefficient and terrible, it was your way of controlling a lot of what came in from the outside world from having a massive impact on you personally. And so think of your AI as your firewall, as your antivirus software, as the thing that allows you to fight manipulation and to have the control of the experience that you have in the online and the offline world. We'll call it your gatekeeper, right? So my idea here is your AI is going to be something that you will go through an initiation phase with it. And what I call my initiation phase, that means where you learn it and it learns you, either through observing your behavior or through very specific sets of parameters that you're able to give to it. A process that won't be difficult, but it will allow you to say, look, here's the kind of content that I want to see. I want to be able to see issues in a balanced way. I want you to be able to weed out stuff that's directly psychologically manipulating. I want to be able to make choices based on what my friends group or my family or the people that I love are doing. And I want you to make sure that these are beneficial to me on the following set of criteria: my health and welfare, my mental well-being, right? And this now is the funnel. This now sits between you and the digital world and the myriad of things out there that are looking to manipulate you for their own ends. And it allows decisions to be made so you see what you want to see in the way that you want to see it across a range of parameters that make sense to you. And the way I think about this is it's going to shift the way the internet works today and all of commerce works into a model that I'm going to call negotiation, not manipulation, right? So imagine, if you will, that instead of today, an advertiser wants to get to you, so they basically buy access to you through social media or through one of the mediums of engagement. And they send out what I would call a shotgun of advertising to a myriad of people, most of whom are uninterested or potentially not even qualified, right? And what I would like to say is, let's take that differently. Let's say that the only way to get to you is through your personal AI. So now if an advertiser is interested in having you look at their latest car with the greatest engine or some other product, they come to your avatar, your AI, and they essentially make a case. They say, look, we really think this is appropriate for this person, and we would like them to spend half an hour looking at the materials that are relevant. And then they offer a price, and they say, we're willing to pay $500 for you to take that serious amount of time and to verify that they actually really considered our value proposition. And now your AI can look at your criteria and say, hey, I think this is an acceptable thing. I'm going to come to you and make the offer to you. So it really shifts the power back to the individual from the organization. But it's really good for both of them, because if you think about it, today that same car dealer spends millions of dollars to fire out that advertisement to tons of people who couldn't buy the car if they wanted it. Maybe they're not in the right region, they're not qualified. So how do they know if you're qualified? How do they know to make that offer to you that you're worth $500 to look at their advertisement? So now there's a whole set of super cool technologies. They're largely coming out of Web3, but they're called zero knowledge proofs. And you can go look for other videos that go into the details of these. I don't want to bore you with the technical details, but here's what they can do practically. It allows for questions to be answered in the affirmative or the negative on information that they don't get access to directly. So an example, every one of us is familiar with going to a bar and now I have to give my driver's license to the bouncer if they want to let me get in the door. And now that bouncer knows who I am, what my name is, where I live, my driver's license number, all this personal data. Wouldn't it be nicer if they could just say, are you this age, or over this age, and it verifies? Well, zero knowledge proofs allow you to do that. It allows you to answer questions to show that you are qualified or that you have the right credentials without revealing your personal information. And these are real, they work today. And so your personal AI can now go out to the world and represent, look, I have this income, I'm a licensed driver in the state of California, or I have a certain social status, or I'm able to speak this language, or I'm able to drive that car. So basically, the advertiser can know by a negotiation with your AI if you are their potential customer or not. And if they are, then they can make an offer that you can then consider, or your AI can consider based on your criteria. And that really allows the whole model to shift to where you're only going to see the things that you're relevant, qualified, and interested in, and not waste your time. And maybe some of the time you say, hey, my criteria is if my friends are interested in it, maybe it's not exactly for me, but I still want to know what that is. You're in control and you have the ability. So the outcome of this is you get privacy, you get respect for your own information, and you get the safety that comes along with that, right? Because your information is now power, and there are many, many things out there trying to exploit you. You get the autonomy that you need, And you really get to decide what is relevant to you personally without having all of your information stolen. I mean, we're all tired of endless KYC where I have to tell you everything about my personal life in order to do the simplest transaction, right? So now I want to kind of get to why I was interested in like this discussion, right? And that is there are the two models that I described out there. And if you see what is called this transition really from kind of Web 2 to Web 3, take the blockchain out of them, what it comes down to is it's between black box software, and black box software is software where it does the function you need, but you have no real idea of what's taking place inside of it, and open source software where the code is publicly available and it has feedback from the community and you know exactly what's taking place. So if you imagine the offers that are come down the pipeline to you are going to be your personal AI can be from the open source community or it can be from a black box. I would say that it's a no-brainer. You want it to be open source. I want to know that there's no manipulation taking place inside. I want to understand the criteria that this was making its judgments on. I want to make sure there's no back door into my personal gatekeeper that allows corporation X, Y, or Z to simply come in and change my parameters or shove more information down my throat that I don't want, both for my convenience and honestly, going forward for my safety. Because as we get into the coming era, you're going to find that the barrier between what is the digital world and what is your wetware world is becoming more and more blurred, right? So I really believe that you should be looking today and super focused on AI that's coming out of the open source world. And when you start to make the decision, because here's how user lock-in happens in the AI sphere, right? User lock-in means once you start using a product, what keeps you from moving to another product? So on the social media world, it's all your friends are there. It's the easiest way to get conveniently to other people. In the AI world, it's going to be your training history. So every time you interact with an AI, it learns something about you. As you share information, it's going to get better and better at knowing what you want, at being able to understand intuitively the communication so that it becomes as simple as possible to maximize the utility. And that is going to be based on the history of that AI and how it's been trained. So what I think is most important is that in the open source world, that set of training belongs to you. And it's portable. Say there is a better AI that comes out and you want to take that history of training to it, or you want to be able to go in and delete some of that training. Maybe there's something there you don't want. So the control over the history is really going to be the single most valuable asset in the AI world. And I can absolutely guarantee you that that history on a centralized service, the one you're probably using today, you might get a copy of that back, but a copy of that stays with the provider. And they're going to do everything to make it more and more difficult for you to be able to have control over your own training data and be able to leave that service and have to go through the whole operation again. So really focus on that aspect. That's really where the open source is the most powerful, is it's going to give you the leverage and the capability to decide, I want to take my toys and go home. I want to upgrade. I want to use that training data for something else. I want to monetize it, right? Because you are the most valuable asset on the internet is your time and attention. And we all know the saying, right? That if you're not paying, you're the product, not the actual service. In this case, I don't want you to be the product. I want you to be the recipient of the vast majority of the profit that is generated by selling access to you, your history, and your data. And the only way that can happen is in an open source world. So I hope this is interesting to you, and I hope you will really look at the options that are out there and at least understand the fundamental underlying principle. If it's a black box, if it's a commercial offering, if it's a centralized service, the probability is that you're going to end up being a slave to a system that you know very little about and have no control over. And I don't think that's the future of the internet that you want or I want.